What is up, y'all, and welcome to Week 6 Dynasty Talk with Sam. Today we're going to go over some overrated and underrated Dynasty assets. We're going to be using KTC for the values just as a good crowdsource way to determine the value of a player right now. So please stick in after the intro. So just to start off, I want to say don't ever use something like a trade calculator or KTC as the end-all be-all for the value of a player, to trade a player, etc. But what I'm just going to use is I'm going to use it as an example today. Sometimes you can use these tools to even gain an edge on your league mates, right? If you know a bunch of your league mates are using KTC and it's really annoying you that they're always double checking your trades with KTC, go on there and see the guys that have different rankings according to your own personal rankings and try to use that to your advantage to build trades that your league mates might accept. So I'm using my personal rankings and I've recently checked KTC. We're going to go over some guys that I find to be overrated and underrated. So first off, overrated. When I looked, James Cook, RB13. Now, James Cook, he has started off pretty hot. He's had a pretty good game, especially the first 4 weeks. He didn't have a great game this last week, but RB13 is just crazy high. Now, I'm not saying that I love the running backs going after RB13 on KTC because running back is tough. There's injuries. There's a lot of old guys. There's some young guys that haven't produced yet. But I think with James Cook, if you can find someone who's valuing him this high, is you need to turn RB13 into a comparable wide receiver. Now, it may not be wide receiver 13, but there's definitely some wide receivers in the 20s on KTC, and actually a couple of guys we're going to talk about later in the show that I think would be good targets to get James Cook. Maybe you could get that wide receiver plus for James Cook just by using KTC's value and really just finding that RB needy team. And James Cook is a young running back on a good offense, which are both good selling points when you're trying to trade someone. So next, Jordan Love, KTC quarterback 12. I don't know if it's his age or if it's just the first couple weeks of the season that really propped Jordan Love up, but I just cannot stomach this value right now. I am personally not a believer. We all saw in that Monday night game that he just does not have it. So if you can find anyone that is valuing him this high and turn him into any of the quarterbacks after QB 12, the next 2, 3, or 4, even a Bryce Young, I think Kyler Murray would be a great guy to try to go get with Jordan Love. Even, Jared Goff, someone that I just feel has more talent and is in a better situation than Jordan Love. So if you're holding on to him and valuing him at this, at this value, I think you really need to rethink that. You should be approaching your league mates to see who's interested in Jordan Love. Next is going to be Calvin Ridley. Now, I do really like Calvin Ridley's talent, and he's had a couple good games. He has been being targeted. I think the issue for me is that Jacksonville offense has a lot of good weapons. Ridley, Zay Jones has looked pretty good. Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram gets the ball. Travis Etienne gets the ball. And I'm just a little concerned that once Zay Jones gets back from his injury, where he's playing full, that I just don't know if there's going to be enough targets to go around to really give Ridley this value or treat him like the alpha wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. If I could turn Calvin Ridley into Christian Kirk plus, that is a trade I would do every single day because I view them a lot closer to being equal with each other than putting Ridley on a pedestal above Kirk. So if you can get that value, I think that's something that would be a good way to grow the value of your team or build draft capital or, get Kirk and a toss-in running back if you need one. Stuff like that to really build depth and just be able to improve a player that I really don't think you're going to lose points on a week-to-week basis. You're just kind of going off the name value. So next is going to be Kyren Williams. Now, this one may seem a little obvious to you more experienced Dynasty players, but Kyren Williams is a short-term asset. at a short-term asset position, right? He's having a very good season. He's a top 12 running back right now, and he may finish as a top 12 running back. But if you are not contending maybe a 1, 2, or 3 seed, Kyren Williams is someone that you should be moving immediately. Maybe trying to move Kyren Williams in a second for a first. Kyren Williams in a pick for an even more elite asset. Kyren Williams for, Nick Chubb and something if you're rebuilding. These are the kind of trades you need to be making with a player like Kyren Williams, whose shelf life is going to be short. I could really see them drafting a running backs next year. We all saw what happened with Cam Akers. And I just don't think I want to hold on to him unless you really need him on a week in, week out basis to win. I totally understand if you're a contender and you don't want to trade him away, because this is the kind of guy that you should go get if you're a contender, someone who can help you win right now. But if you're in the middle of the pack or rebuilding, Kyren Williams needs to get off your roster and really capitalize on the value that he does hold right now. Zach Charbonnet is another one. KTC RB21. I do like Zach Charbonnet's talent. And I've just spoken before, though, how much I believe Kenneth Walker could be a difference maker. So even if Charbonnet's snap count does increase, which it totally is, his target share is increasing. But Kenneth Walker is going to be the guy there, barring injury. And I just think at RB21, you could turn this into something a lot more valuable for your team, whether it's equivalent wide receiver, whether it's a running back in the similar area with a pick on top or something. But if someone's really valuing Charbonnet as a young running back too, which is RB21, go trade him and just build that capital on your team. A late first, I would probably take that for Charbonnet. The 24 class looks great. And I just don't want to be caught holding a guy that could be a backup running back his whole career. So just to go over our overrated guys for the show, James Cook, Jordan Love, Calvin Ridley, Kyren Williams, and Zach Charbonnet. A lot of running backs. I think in general, running back tends to be an overrated position if you're not using them on a week-to-week basis to win games in Dynasty. So easier to have overrated running backs and underrated wide receivers, which we're going to see as we move into this underrated section. So underrated wide receiver number 1, George Pickens. Wide receiver 27. And I just think this player is getting better week in and week out. And Kenny Pickett is looking his way. Pickens is becoming a deep threat. He's becoming a possession guy. His route running is improving on week and end basis. And he's just a big body guy that I think can really fill in as a good wide receiver 2 for your dynasty. And he's being valued more as a wide receiver 3. He's young and he really has a ceiling that he hasn't even fully reached yet. Calvin Ridley for George Pickens. According to KTC, this is a trade that you could get done. James Cook for George Pickens and something. I would probably even do James Cook just for George Pickens if you're looking to move into a different position. I would just tend to put my value in these young wide receivers and build around that and then go get the running backs when you need them. But George Pickens just looks like a really good buy for me. I'm not saying that he should be rated as, wide receiver 15 or 16, but I think he's more of an early 20s kind of guy right now. And if he's being rated as wide receiver 27, I do think there might be a small buy window for you to go get him. So another guy that's going to be on Pittsburgh is going to be Dionte Johnson, wide receiver 45. That's crazy. I have Dionte in my 30s, and it's probably just the injury that's pushed him down. This happens every year with injured players. We forget how good they are, and we just forget what a target share Dionte Johnson can command. I do think there's enough targets to go around in Pittsburgh between those two players. They don't really have a valuable 3 in Allen Robinson and Calvin Austin. So I think between the two, I think they can both put up good numbers. They just are different roles for the Pittsburgh offense. But wide receiver 45 is crazy. If you can find anyone valuing him anywhere near wide receiver 45, you should go get Dionte Johnson immediately, especially in a PPR league. He's going to catch passes, and he has a very, very high floor. So next is going to be another injured player, and that's going to be Nick Chubb. If you are rebuilding, go get Nick Chubb right away. The James Cooks, the Kyren Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, anyone in that category of player, you should be moving for Nick Chubb or Nick Chubb plus, depending on who you're moving. James Cook, you need to be able to get Nick Chubb plus. You can't be doing that trade flat. Pacheco, you could probably do straight up. Kyren Williams, I still would want more than just Nick Chubb, probably, just because at some point you have to use the leverage you have, which is the person that maybe had Nick Chubb needing a running back. But Nick Chubb, look, if he comes back, we all know the upside of him. And all it's going to take is 1 to 2 games of vintage Nick Chubb. his value could skyrocket back up to RB15 or higher, right? All it's counting on is that ACL surgery, which, in general, running backs hurt their ACLs every year, and they usually come back fairly successfully, at least eventually. Now, we will see, Javonte Dobbins haven't looked great, but Brees is coming around. So you win some, you lose some, but just this value right now for Nick Chubb is too good that I think you need to go get him if you're a rebuilding team and attack that value. Or even if you are a contending team, see what the Nick Chubb owner wants. Ask the question. You never really know until you ask. And that's some of the best way to get trades done in dynasties, just by asking who's available and what the price is for them. Make them tell you what they want, and then you can agree or disagree, but you never know until you ask. So I did want to cover at least one tight end on this list, and one that I really found was Cole Kmet at tight end 14. I'm not saying that this is a super, super underrated buy. What I'm saying is I think Cole Kmet's a very affordable piece to get. If Justin Fields continues to take steps forward like he has these last 2 weeks, Cole Kmet could slowly rise up these rankings and just become an every week starter for you, where maybe you can get them for a tight end 2 kind of price, maybe a couple seconds if you're looking for a younger tight end. Maybe you're trying to move off some older asset at Darren Waller and you're trying to get Cole Kmet in a pick or something. But I think these are trades that you could definitely be looking into if you're looking for a tight end, because when it comes down to it, the Kelseys, the Hawkinsons, the Laportas, the Kincaids, you're not really going to have access to those guys on your team. The Mark Andrews, right? Kyle Pitts. So Cole Kmet might be someone that's attainable, who maybe he's the tight end 2 on a team that has one of those elite guys. And you could go get him and just see what you want if you're looking for a young tight end with upside. Young tight end with upside, that's what Cole Kmet is. And I think he's good at the value he's currently at. So this is one of my favorite ones we're going to talk about today. Josh Downs at wide receiver 52. He has looked absolutely incredible in Indianapolis. He is the wide receiver 2 there behind Michael Pittman. Alec Pierce has been basically nothing. And Josh Downs is just getting open. A lot of us were super excited about Downs pre-draft. I think some of the excitement fell a little bit due to his draft capital he received. But now that he's on the field and he's getting open and making plays, he just looks like a great wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, potentially for your dynasty team moving forward. And if you can get him for wide receiver 52, that is a trade I would make every single time. I would be giving up a second-round pick for Josh Downs easily if that's a trade you can get done, or trying to move on from some of these running backs if you're rebuilding, probably in the RB, 2-3 range. Maybe you could, Jerome Ford for Josh Downs. I think that's a trade that's pretty realistic if the dude needs a running back, but definitely be considering Josh Downs' value. Now, he may be tough to get because the Downs owner is probably someone that was high on him, and he may not be available in your league. And that's just something that we have to remember may be the case, right? Not everyone is attainable just based on whose team they are on. But Josh Downs is someone that you should be asking about. You should be trying to throw him in a trade if you're making a deal. Maybe you can get Nick Chubb and Josh Downs for James Cook. I think that's a trade that'd be pretty good for a rebuilder to make. So look into these offers. But just to recap our underrated players for the show: George Pickens, Dionte Johnson, Nick Chubb, Cole Kmet, and Josh Downs. So thank you guys for tuning in for week 6, overrated and underrated dynasty assets. If you have any other questions, definitely leave a comment. Hit me up on Twitter at Where's Waldorf. I'd love to help you out. And just one last note, remember, KTC is a tool. It is not an end-all be-all. Please don't be that guy, right? No one wants to be that guy. But if someone in your league is being that guy, use the tool to your advantage. See the kind of trades you can maybe get done if they're always going to be double-checking them on some sort of trade calculator, right? So thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you for Flex Friday and next week. I appreciate it.